What's up, beautiful people? This is Christian from the Successful Spiritualpreneur podcast, and today we have a very special guest for you. Her name is Tara Divina, and she mentors magical people to monetize their creative and healing talents in a fun and sustainable way. She combines the practical experience of generating millions of dollars through her own business with her intuitive seeing of the deeper truths that we must look at in order to have a real fulfillment. So she really believes that we can transform our reality through a combination of prayer, creativity, and aligned action and generate an upward spiral of wins that benefits all beings. Her creative expression also includes being a healing musician, clothing designer, and Vedic astrologer. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thanks for having me. So great to be here.
Yay, what an honor. So tell us more about you. Like, how did you become that magical being that you are, helping others monetize their gifts and talents? Yeah. How did that come about?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but the headline is that I was working in the music business. I was a vice president at the Warner Music Group and had been on a very interesting 10-year journey with that and was not connected with my magic or any kind of entrepreneurial side of myself at that point. And I got an invitation in 2008 to a little festival called Burning Man. And I wound up there. And through a series of synchronistic and magical events, I wound up just discovering a completely different side of my life and opening up kind of the creative and magical, musical, spiritual doorways. And then nothing was ever the same. And I wound up pursuing my life purpose and discovering Vedic astrology and music and all the different things. And then eventually figuring out how to monetize that, and then just naturally wanting to help others do the same.
Wow, I love that. And which one of these, I would say, passions or, vocations of yours is the one that is, I would say, presently most present? How like what do you love to like do most currently in your life?
That's kind of like asking someone what their favorite child is, I think, because it's so hard to say. I really am a multi-potentialite in the sense that I do all of the things at the same time. So I would be so sad, for example, if I wasn't focused on giving Vedic astrology readings while at the same time doing business coaching and working on my clothing line and making music, kind of all of which I am doing right now. So I can't really pick a favorite. I can say that financially speaking, my main income source at the moment, just right now, is my coaching business. Though it's not always that way. It hasn't always been that way. It won't always be that way. But right now, that is the case this year.
Beautiful. And what are currently like, do you have any like fun programs that you offer currently? What are you excited about in your coaching business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super focused on my 1 year long mastermind at the moment. I sort of decided this year as an experiment to focus solely on my mastermind clients for business coaching. And so I have 22 amazing, magical, creative humans on this journey with me. And we meet together every week in different ways, and I support them every day. And I decided to just see like what's it like if I just have one sole program this year and just like pour everything I have into it. And so we're a few months deep into that journey, I guess going on month 4. And it's been awesome and so great to be able to really allocate that focus to serving my clients instead of just launching and marketing and all of
Yeah.
that. That is also exciting and necessary, but fun to be able to
So,
focus on them.
so is there a structure to the program, or is it more just like I tune into what each individual person needs, or kind of like a mixture of both? Like, how would you
Yeah.
classify that? And how would you like people who I would say who are interested, like how would they find out if that's for them? Like, can you talk a little bit more about that, the mastermind?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a mixture of both. So there, it has a structure, but then it also has a flexibility. So we meet together every week. We have a week off during the month, but we otherwise meet every week in pods of like 5 to 6 people. And then each person gets a 15 to 20 minute coaching segment where it's just like me and them chatting, and other people can chime in and give input, et cetera. And that's kind of the meat and bones of the program. And then in between, we also engage in our Facebook group where they can post anything they want, like for copy review, or, I just got this photo shoot done. What do you think? Or, I have this issue coming up with a client, or I'm working on my album and this is arising. These are the kinds of things people might bring up in between sessions. They also get one-on-one sessions with myself and my husband and a coaching partner, Zev, who also really holds the clients as well and anything that they need. He also leads a mindset magical prayer call every 2 weeks. We have an operations call as well for like the nitty gritty of technology, which I know you understand very well. And then we also have somebody on the team who does copy edits as well. So they're getting just like a ton of different support from every angle, which is really necessary, I think, especially when we're on the precipice of doing very exciting, scary new things in our business. To be able to feel held from all different angles really does like increase the chances that we'll succeed and be able to stay the course with our big dreams and big prayers.
Beautiful. And who would you say is that mastermind mainly for? Is that for new people, like people who've been in the business for a couple of years, or like experts? How would you classify those?
It's for people who they have a business, they know what their business is. They might be open to changing it. They might be ready for a revamp of that business, but they have experience. Like they've probably been working on some business of their own for at least 5 years. And maybe they've made multiple six figures in the past. And recently their business has been making nothing, or maybe they never quite crossed that threshold of like 5 figure months or whatever financial benchmark they have. Or maybe they're feeling like the creativity just never got brought into their business and got left to the side. But those are definitely the people who thrive in the container, who have like the foundational sense of like what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how a business is run, but they're missing different pieces that would allow them to have a sustainable, repeatable income.
Got it. Okay, beautiful. That sounds like a really, just like holistic program that really covers, a lot for people. And so what, like, from your pathway and your background, like how did you get into coaching and helping people with their gifts? Like tell us a little bit more about your
Yeah.
background, your story.
Yeah, well, I definitely did not set out to be a business coach. Like, that's not actually my passion. What happened was I had other successful businesses, and people came to me and said, "Can you help me with my business?" And so it was just sort of an obvious extension of that to do business coaching. And then the other thing that happened was I began this journey with my Vedic astrology practice. And one of people's main questions, well, there was two main questions that everyone cares about. So everybody cares about their purpose and their career to some degree. Though it's all a smokescreen because the only thing anyone really cares about, as it turns out, is love and relationships, no matter what they say. 99.9% of the time, a reading winds up focused on love and relationships. Even if the person's like, that area of my life is fine, I just want to talk about these other things. So I began mentoring people around life purpose, number one, which obviously the next thing after you find your life purpose is you want to know how to monetize it, probably. So that's one path that led me into business coaching. The other one is that it was so obvious that everybody, including myself, needed so much help with love and relationships. And so I co-founded a business with a wonderfully talented expert love and relationship coach who focuses on attachment styles and the healing of those. And we launched a multi-million dollar coaching business for women initially, and then men also, to be able to heal their attachment style and develop healthy attachment and have a healthy and happy, long lasting partnership. And so I worked on that business for about 6 years. And of course, that was another pathway towards business coaching because people wanted to know how did we do it and what did we do and how can they do it for themselves. It was also a very kind of like an automated funnel based marketing flow. And after doing that business, I realized how much I personally prefer and appreciate the ability to bring creativity into it, like to allow for more of a magical flow and a self-expression that attracts clients versus something more mathematical and automated. And so, since then, I've learned how to get clients anywhere from my music that's on Spotify to comments I've made on threads talking about fashion. Like to be able to attract a client based on who I am and what I love, instead of just the straight math of an automated funnel, which also very much has its place. So those are kind of the things that wound up ushering me into the world of business coaching. That, and of course, I built my Vedic astrology practice. I've had online retail stores that were quite successful, and I've had my fingers in different pots of business. And I think it's so important for so many business coaches have never had a successful business outside of business coaching, and I think that it's fine, but there's something really nice about being able to receive mentorship from someone who's actually done a business that's similar to the one that you're working on. So I appreciate that I'm able to at
Yeah.
least bring
And
that.
it sounds like you
Yeah,
really like you put you put the heart back into business, you know? And I love that about your work. And when we work with clients at Love Pixel Agency, we always look at, what's the balance, or where on the spectrum of like divine masculine, divine feminine do people fall onto? And I think your work is such a great example of being so well balanced, and creating, being business savvy, having that masculine background, but also having this like artistic, uh, you know, music is, part of your passion too. So, people get a really well round offering and just like energy when they come to you. So I think that's really beautiful that you share your services with the world, and especially in a time that we need it so much. So yeah, it's really inspiring. And the question I have around that is, when did you start to like establish like a real online presence with your coaching offerings?
it's a great question. So I was playing around with all of this up until about 2019, so about 5 years ago. I would put things out there and I was working, but I wasn't really like going full steam ahead, partially because my attention was bifurcated in that I was focusing heavily on the love coaching business, right? And less on my own presence. And my identity was not wrapped up in that business. It was somebody else's identity that I was helping to bolster, the head coach of that business. So in 2019, I realized that I was hungry to put myself out there and to actually have my own presence and to do my own marketing. And that's when I began to really take it seriously. And I decided to just lean into what I was already naturally doing at that time, which was, naturally I would share written content on Facebook. That was the platform and that was the medium that I was most likely to utilize on a day-to-day basis. And so I leaned into it and learned to add calls to action and invitations and sales content to my content that I was already sharing, essentially. And that's when I began to really begin establishing myself online as a coach. And it took shape and grew very quickly from there.
Beautiful. And since you have such experience and also long time experience in the coaching industry, so how would you think? How do you think the social landscape has changed over the years? Like, what do you see works or doesn't work anymore? Like, share a little bit about that.
It's such a great question. So I think at the beginning, like when I first started studying the online marketing of the coaching realm, it was 2008. I think my very first program was an Eben Pagan program. And I don't know, for those of you who are longtime marketing nerds, you may remember Eben. He's still out there teaching. He's an amazingly talented, wonderful human being. And I'm so glad I started there, because Evan was teaching about the trends of the time, which were also based on foundational marketing wisdom, right? So it's like pain point marketing, specificity, like being able to understand the problem better than the client does, etc. Like this was all what we were doing. I guess that would have been almost 20 years ago. So we're talking about 16 years ago, 2008, right? How's my math? Maybe not great. Um, so it's always hard to calculate on the fly. So anyway, at that time, that's what worked. You'd say like, "Hey, are you having this problem? Are you having that problem? If you don't solve that problem, you're going to die alone in a box. So you better buy my product," right? And that's what worked essentially at that time was this like overtly kind of directed, masculine. I say in quotes because it's kind of just masculine, male dominated. I would say online marketing that was direct to the point, full of scarcity, fear, urgency, all of it, right? And that's what worked. And then over time, the the women started stepping into the industry in full force, and things really started cooking. I mean, like mid, like I think like 2014, 2015 was kind of like a big like injection of female energy. And then it was kind of like now we're selling energetics. Now we're selling desire. Now we're selling lifestyle, right? So then lifestyle marketing became such a thing. It's like me and my luxury bag and my luxury car, and you two can have this dream of sipping pina coladas on the beach while money rolls in, and you do absolutely nothing. It was sort of a different version of the dream based on desire, not need. It is said that men masculine buys on likes to buy things based on need, but that the feminine, the female, wants to buy based on desire. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. That like the masculine wants to spend money when they need new tires, but the feminine hates that, doesn't want to have to spend money on new tires. The feminine wants to go shopping and have the whole experience, and the masculine doesn't want to be bothered with that. And again, these are false gender based dichotomies, but useful when thinking about this. So then lifestyle marketing was dominant. That kind of really peaked, I think, around 2021, 2022. And it's like, do you want what I have? So now we've moved from scarcity to do you want this? You can have it. And now I believe we want to know a person. We want to know them, to trust them, to like them, to want to embody who they are, essentially, in the energetics of who they are versus what they've got. And so now I think it's all about authenticity. And I also heard recently someone put something in a way that I thought was so brilliant. They said that those who are really great at the medium of video, which has obviously been a huge driver of marketing over the last few years, the people who are the best at it, they know how to be themselves and transmit their presence the most authentically and clearly, right? So it's like, can we be the most of ourselves in front of a camera when it's actually the hardest to be ourselves, right? So the people that are succeeding now, they have the ability to turn on the camera or start writing, and you feel like you're on a FaceTime with your best friend, or you feel like you're texting with a lover, like it has that energy of like, there's an intimacy, there's a sense of there's no barrier between me and you. We are the same, except you may have something to teach me, a skill or a perspective or an energetic that I want. And so I feel like that is the main trajectory that we've been on, that the trend now is like, can you be yourself? and allow yourself to understand your value and your worth as you. Like your presence is the gift. You are the only one of you that there is. And can you be with that and trust that, monetize that, sell that, market that?
Wow. Beautiful. That was a really beautiful timeline, a really beautiful, excerpt and rundown of how the marketing landscape has changed over the years. I think I've never heard it summarized so well.
Cute. It's a really fun question to answer.
Yeah.
Fun to think about it.
So, and then, continuing that conversation from there, how can we be more ourselves?
Mm. It's a great question. And I think it's a bit different for everybody, but I mean, one simple way is to simply imagine that we're talking to a friend. Like, would I say this to a friend? Is this the language I would use in a normal conversation? If the answer is no, we're probably layering some performance over top of it, right? The more that we feel like we're just unfiltered being ourselves, the more we're going to be ourselves, right? So it's about, I think, just asking ourselves over and over again, am I performing? Is this natural? Is this what I would normally say? Is this what I really want to say? What am I holding back? What am I not actually sharing here?
Hmm. So let me ask you. Let's make this a little experiment with your permission, of course. Well, is what are you holding back? Is there anything you're holding back you would like to make this more real? I think it'd be fun.
Ooh, I love that so much. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in like this point in my own self-expression where I'm asking that same question of myself every day. Like, what am I not saying? What am I not holding back? Or what am I holding back rather? And I don't have an answer right now. Like, I've been meditating on this constantly because I've been in a period of like lower self-expression, I guess. Like I haven't been posting as much or sharing as much. I have been designing clothes and recording music, so my creative channels are flowing in a different direction. But I think that I have gotten a bit tongue-tied with how the energetics and the landscape of social media have been over the last 6 months to a year. Like how much challenging energy and judgment and pain has been getting expressed online, and not sure like where my role is or how to participate exactly in a way that feels right for me. Like I know that things that don't feel right to me include identity politics, sharing alienating opinions that make it impossible for swaths of people to trust me and work with me. Um, Mostly because I believe opinions are just that, opinions. And I don't believe that most of what we're expressing is objective truth on any side of the equation. And so that's really the message that I've been able to share is that, you know, um, but I have been praying into like, what is the higher octave of what wants to come through me? Like, what is there, um, what really wants to be said?
Hmm. So yeah, with that, I think just taking a little breath at this moment, closing our eyes for, I would say, 3 breaths. And one more. So yeah, what wants to be said? What do you want to say, Tara? I think you're a wonderful soul, a wonderful being, and you do such wonderful work. Like what do you wanna say?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know right now. And I think that's a place that some of us arrive at sometimes. And I've learned that that
Mm.
is okay, you know? And I think sometimes it's okay to not say anything when we're not sure what wants to come through. Like when I, as a musician, record music or make music, there will be years where no music wants to come through. And I think as a result of not trying to fight that, I really love all of the songs that do come through. Like I wind up what does get through the what does come through my channel winds up being a song that I'm really proud of every time. And I think that's just how my channel works. It's gotten quiet after years of like um, consistently outputting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I feel too. I've done this little challenge with myself last year, starting September. I was posting a reel for every day. And then
Mm.
in January, I stopped because it just takes effort and energy to put it up and to, publish, schedule, edit, all that kind of stuff. And then the reward wasn't really there for me. And so it's just like, yeah, there's a time where it just gets empty, you know? And just like you said, maybe something doesn't need to be said right now, and I think that's where the answer lies sometimes, is just giving us the space to like not output for a while, you know,
Yeah,
just to be.
exactly. And I've created the luxury in my business of being able to do that. So, like, I've designed my businesses in a way that I can afford to spend 9 months to a year being quiet, but it wasn't always that way. And it's like sometimes we just have to get over feeling like we have nothing to say if we need to sell and market. Like, we just gotta be like, and I would say, like, that the counsel I give my clients when they hit these moments where, like, part of them has nothing to say, but they actually are going to need to get out there and say stuff in order to sell their content, their programs. Is how can I help? How can I be helpful right now? What do people need? And if we come from that perspective and make it not about us and not about what we want to say, but more about like what does our client need to hear, then we can overcome these moments where we feel quiet and internal and in a cocoon. And if we've created a business where we now have the luxury of not needing to do that, like we have done our launch and said things and now we get to be quiet for a while, then we get to do that, and but not everyone's business is in a place where that can happen.
Hmm, beautiful. And what we say are the key, I would say, factors for us to build a business where that can happen.
Yeah. We have to have monthly recurring revenue. We have to have longer offers. So like if we're selling offers and it's like buy my program, it's 4 weeks long. And so that's going to create 1 month of income and then we're going to have to launch again. Then that's not going to help us have time to be internal or not have to market, right? So it has to be a longer offer, 3, 4, 6 months, a year, longer than a year, right? And then to create recurring revenue. Obviously, people want to pay monthly or they want to break up their payments, or if they pay all at once, we can amortize that throughout the year. But if we don't have that, if we don't have offerings like that in our business, we are going to be launching and selling all the time. So we have two choices. One is we can figure out how to still create organic content in that moment and like okay, how can I help? What can I say? What could be said? Even though I don't want to say anything. The other option is, of course, to create an automated funnel. Um, and both can work. And in fact, it was wonderful for 6 years to have that automated funnel when I didn't feel like constantly generating content. And I've moved on from my desire to do that. I might pick it back up again, but um, generally speaking, that's what you need. You need an offer that lasts or an automated funnel that will repeatedly enroll people into your offers.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, and maybe even a combination of both, right? What I see
Yeah.
a lot of people see doing in the funnel world is everybody's talking about. I mean, if you know Russell Brunson, kind of like the founder of ClickFunnels, he's talking about the linchpin funnel a lot lately, or starting last year. And he's all about if you don't have monthly revenue, you don't have a business, right? So he's in the same boat. He calls it the linchpin funnels, and basically all it does is like it's establishing a monthly recurring revenue into your business. Um, and that's basically what he's teaching people to do. And so his perspective has shifted a lot too, because it needed to. The market was just like overly saturated with this offer, that offer, this is gonna fix it, that's gonna fix it, and people are just like tired of the bullshit, pretty much. Like you need like there's no thing that's gonna fix your life in a year. Like how do you expect your mess of 10 or 5 years of mismanagement to be fixed in a year? Like, really? Um, I mean, depending on the program, of course. It's like, whatever. Like, if somebody sits with you every day and it does all, I mean, nothing's impossible, right? We can fix your life in a year, but it's not like you buy a program and yourself, you watch the videos and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be some energy input from your side. To just bring you to a certain level. And so, yeah, that's what's happening in the funnel world too. And it's really interesting to see because, again, I want to stress kind of like this saying, which a friend of mine also is kind of like very a proponent of. Is his name is George Bryant. You can look him up on Instagram. It's his handle is it's George Bryant, and he talks a lot about how to put the heart back into business, right? And the system or the online landscape is just little it's just so disconnected. It's just a little broken of like people don't know how to connect with people anymore. That's why obviously right now what's not only trending but what's also what will last is people who are authentic, right? Because we want to buy and sell and communicate and talk to people that are authentic, right? So obviously what works online, if you can be the person that you are offline also online. That's why you were talking about being authentic, being you. Because this human connection, like for some reason when we go on the internet, it's like we lose this like touch with ourselves, and we are a little bit like different, right? You know what I mean? Like we portray ourselves differently, we have a certain image, we're not 100% ourselves anymore. And then that's where obviously the disconnect and the discrepancy and the energetic um yeah disconnect comes in, where people are just like, there's something wrong. And just people are getting so much more intuitive, like their bullshit radar is so much more aware of like what's out there. And it's really beautiful. And I think in a way collectively it really invites us to create more harmonious programs, more authentic programs, more holistic, more programs with integrity, rather than this 6 months or this 3 months thing is gonna completely change it. No, like this is a thing, and then we have a membership where we integrate together and we do stuff ongoingly, because this is how you change your life a long term, is by making habits, by changing little things over time, rather than making big shifts every week because they're not sustainable. You need time to integrate and things like that. So, yeah, it's really beautiful to hear you say that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that drove me this year to be like to have the experiment of like, what if I just gave everything to my clients? Like what would happen if I just poured into them every ounce of energy I was going to put into marketing? I've always given my mastermind clients a lot of my attention, but this time I wanted to like make it over the top, because nothing makes me more proud of my work than when everybody is there on the last call still at the end of the period, because that's a big deal for people to stay the course in a container like that and to have like solid growth and wins. That's like, it's so important to me. I just don't feel happy receiving income from somebody who's not getting what they came for. And granted, we can't be responsible for clients' results. We can't be responsible for how they show up, but we also we can't abdicate responsibility for that either. Like, um, and I I have a lot of clients who come in and they'll tell me, they're like, hey, I'm afraid I'm not going to show up. I'm afraid I'm going to flake. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. It's like, okay, it is your responsibility to show up. It is your responsibility to not flake, but it's my responsibility to help you with those things and to keep trying until we figure out a solution for you to get around that, like to find out what's under it. Are you frozen? Are you having a somatic challenge right now? Is your nervous system acting up? Are the structures of your life completely unsupportive to you showing up in your business? Are you terrified of something? Like to actually excavate that and look into it rather than, blaming the client. Oh, you didn't show up. You didn't do the work. I provided everything you need. You didn't do the thing with it. And the reality is information is cheap and abundant these days. Like you said, a program telling you what to do isn't transformational. And in fact, with AI coming in, and right now one of my clients who has a company called Digital Wisdom is doing an early adopter program that I've jumped into where he's creating an AI of me. Um, and my vision for this AI isn't that it will replace me. Of course, it's not going to replace me. It's a robot, But what it will do is it'll just make it easier for people to access the information that I've already shared, right? So it's a way to parse through the Taraverse of information. You can ask it a question and it'll know everything I've said for the last 5 years online or on video, and then spit that back out, right? And that's information, and that'll be useful, but it's not going to replace like the intuition, the psychic hits, the Vedic astrology, the dynamic emergence that happens in like coaching. And um, so I agree with everything you're saying. It's just information will continue to be devalued more and more and more as it becomes easier to zero in on exactly the information that you need through AI. And the human connection, the magic that we can provide as humans will, I believe, increase in value. It'll be the thing that we really do need to pay for.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I think exactly what you said, it's like with AI becoming more and more prominent, what's going to become more important is the human, right? Because everything else is going to be so easily accessible, all the information, all the tips and tricks and all kinds of stuff, but the human is going to stay human, you know?
The human's going to stay human. And then we get to enjoy and leverage the power of these new technologies, to be able to make information even easier to access. So that when we do need that, we've got it. It's both and it feels like an exciting time again. Like digital online marketing, the coaching space, etc. Like it's really an industry that's only been around in a big way for 20 years, right? And it feels like it's always on the precipice of something new and exciting because the last 20 years have been so um, dynamic in terms of the technological advances and changes that have taken place. But 20 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. Like we weren't using smartphones. So like what a wild ride it's been. And now with being on the precipice of AI, I think it's just another fascinating moment for this industry. It's like who knows exactly what will happen. Like I can try to predict what I think might unfold, and also like we're back in the great mystery once again. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So, how do you think, what are your future goals, future vision? I mean, it's so hard to assess with AI, but what are you currently, what do you plan that your presence will grow into? And what's your dream that you're looking to like call in?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a couple different parts to that answer. So first, I would just say that one thing I've learned since the beginning of my career is that it's really important to play with and embrace new technology early on. Like if you wait too long, you feel like a dinosaur, like you don't know what's going on. It's hard to kind of grok it. And so, like, for example, the way I got my first job in the music industry was that I would like hand code websites. And so I was brave enough to pitch myself as an intern for a Warner Music Group record label based on my internet knowledge, they took me, like they accepted me. And then I just would make things up as I was going along. And it was constantly my job to be on the forefront of technology. And then I remember when things like Facebook first appeared on the scene, I was compelled to kind of embrace it. Like, what's going on here? Like, this feels like a zeitgeist. This feels important. And it was, like in terms of Facebook ads and the way that the interface, Facebook changed all of our lives. It changed the face of social networking, right? Then, we've got, things like YouTube came along and video and TikTok and, Reels and all these new formats and things. And it's like, if we're not early, um, in exploring these things, we will get left behind in the dust. And so I do think, like, number one, what's important for me is to continue being open to new technology, even if I am afraid or concerned about the impact it might have on the world. Like it's here to stay. It's coming. So I if you can't beat them, you got to join them. And so exploring things like AI and being on the forefront of new technology remains important to me, right? So that's number one. Number two is I'm always asking myself the question, how can I be feeling magical and in my magic as much as possible throughout the day? And so I'm always reassessing, like, how magical do I feel? Like, am I in my magic, or am I phoning it in, or is it, could this be more magical? And so right now I think I've been in an inquiry of, like, how could I make it even better? How can I wake up every morning even more excited to show up, because I get to feel like those precious moments of being in my magical genius, which we all have our zone of magical genius. And if we know what it is, if we know what those are, I think having a happy work life is all about optimizing those moments, more and more of them and less of the ones that we don't relish, whether we delegate that or we shift our business or we hire a staff. And so, this year is going to be interesting. I'm going to try some new things around my music and promoting that. It's actually become a significant, not dominant, but a significant contributor to my income. My music actually makes me money. It's quite a miracle, frankly, to be a musician who's making money in the world, and I'm barely trying. So I want to focus on that. I'm also, for the first time ever, launching a clothing line, which should hopefully be coming out this summer. I keep redesigning the pieces, so I'm being a perfectionist, but intentionally so. And so really playing with, because like I said, as a business coach, I like to lead with the business and then coach based on what I've learned versus, like, become an expert business coach. Like, what even is that, right? So for me, this year is really about leaning back into my own entrepreneurial spirit while I serve my clients, and then seeing where that wants to take me. Like, how does that impact my offerings? How does that change where my attention is? It could be that this time next year I'm completely focused on that clothing line. I don't know, but I'm going to find out by playing and experimenting and continuing to follow the threads of creative inspiration, and continue to follow the opportunity to monetize those. 'Cause I think that's how we wind up doing what we love, is we monetize that which we enjoy doing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, it's funny that you say, venturing off into different, interests and hobbies and passions, because I'm doing the same with tea. Like, I really love tea. And I just recently launched my own brand on Amazon because I just love tea so much. I have a microblog about tea. It's called besttealeaves.com, where I write about health benefits and just what tea is about. And then the brand on Amazon is called One with Tea, because my purpose really with One with Tea is to bring people into oneness with tea. Like, be now in the moment with your tea. You know what I mean? Don't start to run around and stress around all the time. Just be, So I think tea is a wonderful vehicle for that. So that's something that's also in my life very present. In next year, 2025, I'm actually going to study with a tea master in Japan for a month. And so yeah, I'm very excited about that part of my journey. And, as the agency is just, self-sufficient in a way, I have my team, right? And, shifting and focus a little bit more on personal brand, speaking about branding, being part of digital groups and collectives to help people up level their game with web design, branding, funnels, etc. And then tea is just another passion of mine, right? So yeah, it's really cool to
Uh,
see that we're doing similar things at this time
That's
too.
so cool. I love
Yeah.
it. I'm so excited for you. How fun that you are. See, you built your business to a place where you can set aside a month to go study with a tea master. And then using all of your genius skills, like for you to launch a tea business is actually, I bet you can do that in your sleep, that you're somebody who has everything that it takes to be able to follow those creative passions and monetize them. And I love that you're doing it. So great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting and it's such an honor. Tea is a very special plant. I feel like a lot of times in my life it's just tea is the one that calibrates and realigns me to like presence and focus, but not like crazy coffee focus. You know what I mean? So I'm really grateful for tea. Yeah. So yeah, we're nearing the end of our episode. Thank you so much for all your sharings. I think the last question I always reserve for is there anything you would like to share with our listeners, and then of course where people can reach and find you.
Hmm. I feel like we've covered so much amazing terrain. Like there's nothing top of mind other than to just reiterate like you get to be in your magic and you get to be paid to be in your magic. And anyone or anything that suggests otherwise is simply not true. And so if you're listening and there's an aspect of your magic that you have not been pursuing for whatever reason, this is your sign to go after it because you love it. There is just nothing in life that is more fulfilling than being in your magical zone of genius or pursuing a creative outlet that you relish. So those would be my favorite final words to share.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an honor having you, and yeah, thank you so much for all your gifts, your talents, your beauty, your presence, and your wisdom.
My pleasure. Oh, and you'd asked me if people wanted to find me, where they can find me. You can go to my website, taradivina.com, and there's tons of free gifts and things to explore. So feel free to avail yourself of anything there.
Beautiful, amazing. We'll link that in the show notes as well, so you have that for your reference. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being on the show, Tara.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.